outdoor addiction.
Hey guys, welcome back to Hooked on the Harvest podcast. This is Brad, and I'm still here with Ben and Alex. We after the first one went well, we're back for the number 2.
Train's still rolling good.
Yeah, we didn't kill each other the first time, so that's good. So, what's on the agenda for today, boys?
Well,
we want to give a recap to our summer, right?
Summer is winding down. It's starting to get a little cooler, but we still have those last few weeks of fishing. But it's been a fun summer. Started doing my vlogging this year, and I've done a lot of different types of fishing. Got new kayaks. I've been doing a lot of kayak fishing. Jacked actually probably...
Damn kayakers.
Dude, I'm a yakker for life now.
When you fish in a kayak, you're like, man, this is fun. But when you're in a boat and you see a kayak, you're like, gosh,
it's kind of like, guys,
what is this guy doing?
Dude, so like when we went to Imaquan the other day and seeing those 2 people out there with those kayaks.
They had like legit
They
setup.
were cruising.
They had micro power
Dude.
poles on it, and they were Hobie. They had the Hobie Cat pedals.
It was unreal.
They were
man.
cruising.
Yeah, it was
too.
a husband
They
and
were-
wife.
They're blazing right past us, getting their spot, man. They're on a beeline, and they're on a mission.
They
man.
were legit. That's
Those
for
are hardcore
Those,
yakkers right there.
Those are sweet kayaks, though.
I mean, they had the
I'll
matching.
give
Their fishing jerseys matched the paint scheme on their kayak.
They had their own trailer for the kayaks and everything.
Yeah, it was like
Insane.
a custom trailer.
Yeah, I just got a little Pelican Rise, little $200 yak, little sit on top. But dude, I get the job done, man.
Yeah.
Took out the banner a couple times earlier this year, and I jacked. I went out my first maiden voyage. Took it out, and it was on a Wednesday night after work. It was hot. It was scummy. I was in the yak. I probably went through like 200 yards of pure moss. I mean, I was just covered in moss and mud and muck and water, just muddy, smelly. And I got to this little spot.
That's a good thing about kayaks, so you can pretty much go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Even like in my John boat, there's places kayaks can get to that I can't.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
I'll tell a quick story after Alex is done.
Yeah, but I found this little spot. It's deep water. It's probably maybe 15, 16 feet deep. And I was throwing briar baits, which is my good buddy. He makes them. It was a sucker punch swim jig, all white, had a white paddle tail, just kind of bounced off the bottom. And my line just went slack, and my rod just went not like a 90-degree angle. I was like, oh, my God. At first, I thought maybe he snapped.
And then he set the hook on a log.
Yeah. Tree pounder. But I started reeling into it, and it was peeling that drag. I was like, dude, is this musky? I was thinking it was musky. Maybe got in the channel cat, and then started fighting a little bit, and then I saw this big old green. Like, dude, this thing's a toad. And I had a little trout net with me. Didn't have my real net, and landed in the trout net, and this thing had to been. I mean,
You landed it in a trout
in a
net?
trout net, dude.
That's awesome.
It was the most hillbilly
Half of it was
thing I've ever
sticking out.
done.
I got a killer story about a trout net fish. You'll just have to. Well, after Ben says his
Stories are fun.
Dude,
it's
so
already starting.
I landed it, and it was a good land, good hook set. Got the lure popping right out, snagged some picks, and I didn't have my scale on me, didn't have a tape, but dude, this thing had to have been at least pushing 6 pounds, dude. This thing was a
So it was
freaking
like 3.5.
bucket mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
3.5
probably
probably.
4.
See, I get treated around here, but this thing was just, big old bucket mouth. And that was probably one of the highlights of my summer fishing. First time taking the kayak out, probably one of my biggest bass of the year.
Go to Alex Reed's Facebook or Instagram, and you guys can tell us.
Yeah, go to Read on the Fly, and it's probably a couple pictures down. I'm cheesing holding this bass.
Yeah, give us your weight if you're listening to this.
I think honestly,
I remember seeing the picture. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a good fish.
probably 5 pounds,
I bet it's
Dude,
4.5.
maybe a
5.
little bit below.
No. You boys weren't there. I held it in my hands.
I'm gonna have to look it up on my phone.
Look
right
it up
now
on your
just to
phone and just
refresh.
give it a quick look.
While Brad's doing that, I'll just tell a story. Yeah, having a kayak does come in handy. I think I went out to Banner a separate time with you, and I was fishing topwater frog and got a pretty good blow up, but he got stuck up in the moss, and I was yelling, "Alex, help!
Yep, your boy saved the
help."
day.
And Alex comes paddling over in his kayak and lipped the fish for me, snapped a couple picks and let it go, and I didn't have to do anything, just set the hook and.
Must be nice.
I don't know about that fish that Alex is holding, but he had about 5 pounds of chest hair in that picture.
Yeah.
the
Get my-
wife that's shirtless picture.
Getting my Uncle Rico on.
Is
Yeah.
Tom Selleck or Alex?
No, I think it's probably 5. I think it's 5.
I think it's 5 too.
Just you're breaking my heart right now.
It's all right,
Got to
man.
be objective.
It was bigger. I'm not even gonna go there.
It's always bigger when you catch it.
It was
For
a
sure.
meaty fish. It was probably the biggest bass that I caught this year. I'm still living on that high, so we'll talk about it. I'm just gonna talk about it right now.
I mean, you can tell yourself it's 6 pounds. It's okay.
Huh.
Hey, you know what?
If you don't weigh it, it's as big as you say it.
Yep. If you don't put it on the scale, it's as big as you want it to be.
Man, this is the roast of Alex Reed right now. Where's Jeff Ross at?
Yeah, so you want to hear my trout net story?
I was just going to ask, what's your trout net
Okay, so I fished a lot of tournaments. And when I lived down in Southern Illinois, there was a bass club I fished down there. I can give them a little shout out. It's Steel City Bassmasters. Great bass club, great bunch of dudes. And my best friend, really, he lives in Tennessee now, but he was in that club, and we were partners for a long time. And one year he was just doing spectacular. He was in second place for Angler of the Year. We were in second for the tournament, and there was a 2-day deal on a lake called Palm de Terre over in Missouri. It's around Lebanon, Missouri. It's a deep reservoir. It's got a lot of good fishing, a lot of really good fishing, a lot of big fish too. And second day of the tournament, we're out there, and we had found this pattern of these fish. They were in about 6 to 8 foot of water in these stump fields, and they were kind of halfway back in the coves in these stump fields. And we were fishing a RC 1.5 deep diver, so not the square bill RC, the deeper diver one.
Yeah.
And there was a little brush pile in about 5-6 foot of water in the back of this cove. And so leading up to the tournament, he borrowed his dad's boat because his boat was just this little 16-foot John boat, and we were going on this big lake, and we needed a bigger boat. So he borrowed his dad's Triton, and we were out there fishing, pre-fishing, and he's like, "Man, I don't have a freaking net in this boat." I'm like, "Oh, dude," I'm like, "It's, maybe we should go into town and get one." And so at this point, we're broke college kids still. We go into the bait shop there, the local tackle shop, and it's like one of those mom and pop things that's got like 30-year-old lures on the walls and stuff. But then they have the other, the stuff that everybody's looking for. And we go in there and we're looking at these nets, and I'm like, "Man, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to spend $30 on a net." Now today, I'd be like, "Yeah, whatever, just buy it." But we're broke college kids, and I'm like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "I got a dip net in the boat." He's like, if there's something that we're really, really worried about, and pre-fishing the whole time, these fish were just choking this crankbait. So we were just boat flipping them, we just didn't even worry about it. And so we decided not to buy this net. So he's got this trout net that he uses for his live well to get the fish out. And it's just this, you could probably fit a 2.5-3 pound fish in the net, but that's about it. So we go back in this cove, and there's this brush pile back there. And I said, "Dude, that looks really fishy." And we had a pretty good bag already for the day. And he casts back there, sets the hook on this fish with this crankbait, and it is a mondo bass. And I'm talking like 8 pounds plus. Damn. And I'm always the one that small eyes everything, and this thing was huge. And we get it up to the boat. He's like, "Dude, get the net." I'm like, "You really want to try to fit this thing in this little tiny net?" And he was like, "Yeah, we got to do something. He's barely hooked. And he gets him up to the boat. I get the net under this fish, and it's bowed up in this net. Its head sticking out one side, its tail sticking out the other side, and we're trying to lift it up in the boat with this little tiny dip net, right? And his crankbait pops out, and the bass is still like bowed up in the net, and it rolls out of the net back into the water. And that fish alone lost him Angler of the Year and got him second place in the tournament. Dude. He was so, he was frustrated, and he let out a few explicit.
As any would.
Yeah, and it was a real Mike Iaconelli moment, I want to say.
That makes me want to puke just listening.
That's cringy.
Dude, I felt so bad for him because it was literally one of those fish of a lifetime fishes that you may...
In a tournament, no doubt.
Yeah, in a tournament for sure. And it was a monster fish. Dude. But, yeah, that's my trout net story, and it's kind of depressing, but, moral of the story is...
Buy the
$30
net.
Buy the net. Just buy the net.
I think last week when we were fishing Emiquon, I had a couple nice net jobs. Landed Brad's first couple bass and Ben's Mondo white bass, and we had the legit net. Just went down there and scooped her up.
While we're telling netting or bad netting stories, I'll tell one.
There's always that one bad net story.
The last podcast I talked about how I went up to Canada with my dad. A couple times we've been up there, and we go up there with a couple of his buddies, and you can only fit 2 to a boat. So we swap out who's fishing with who, throughout the week. And I'm fishing with one of my dad's good buddies, John. He might be listening.
Shout out to you, John.
Shout out to John
And Rob.
And Rob. And bless their heart, they're crappie fishermen
the retired
to the
guys
bone.
that just fish all day long. That's life goals right there.
They're crappie fishermen through and through, and they don't size up their gear no matter what. They're using their.
They're using that ultralight with the 6-pound test line.
It's versatile, man. You can use it in application.
They might size up the rod, but they're still using that 6-pound, 8-pound test. So we're out fishing in Canada, and John hooks into a Mondo muskie, and he's fighting this thing, and with his ugly stick, he's fighting it, and he's fighting it good. I mean, he probably fought it for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and eventually wore it out. And they, up there where we were staying, they don't give you that big of nets. They're probably, I don't know, 24-inch nets.
Probably just like your standard.
Yeah, just like your standard like bass net. And that's all I had for this freaking 40-inch class muskie. And
on 6-pound test line.
Yeah. I can already tell the outcome of this story.
And you can just see he's got the muskie up on the surface of the water, and you just see just a bit of the hook going into his mouth, and the rest of the spinnerbait.
It's hanging on by that small little piece of skin.
The rest of this, it's one good thrash from coming off. So I have one shot with the net to really get it in there, and I just botched this thing so bad. I get under it, and I lift it from its shoulders. It falls over, and it thrashed, I think, one good time and came off. And bless John's heart again. He didn't get too upset with me, but
well, probably when you got back to the hotel room, probably punched a couple holes in the wall.
yeah, probably.
Go home and kick the dog at the end of the day.
Probably did.
Speaking of muskie, man. Speaking of muskie, man, I got the muskie bug. I never caught a muskie. I never really even specifically targeted muskie.
Dude,
but
you just got to go to Spring Lake, go bass fishing.
Spring Lake and Banner.
I've been stocking up on some spinner baits and giant crankbaits and a couple big little inline spinners, and I'm ready.
March, April, Spring Lake or Banner.
Springtime is your best time. I caught a nice one early summer too.
Yeah, I want to try some for this fall. I know. I don't want to wait till spring. I want to try to do it in October when the water's cooled up a little bit and these fish are a lot more healthier. Don't want to do it right now in the summertime.
Yeah, you get them in when that water temp gets down back in the 70s.
So you've never even caught a small muskie?
I've never caught a single muskie.
Just like you haven't ever caught a freaking dogfish?
Hey, now. Yeah, I never specifically targeted dogfish. So
go up Central Illinois and never catch a dogfish. I feel like you're deprived.
I know. I'm not a true Illinoisan if I've not caught a dogfish.
And for those that don't know what the dogfish is, it's the bowfin. I don't know if that dogfish is just Central Illinois river rat slang or if it's a worldwide term.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to know what the
it's a
history
grinnell.
of
It's
that.
a grinnell that the bowfin or the grinnell, and it's the oldest native species in the Illinois River Basin.
I'm nerdy, and I like to know what the origin of how people start calling it dogfish.
Yeah,
probably because we have catfish, and then you got to have a dogfish. So,
actually, you're probably right.
And then when the two get together, they create a cat dog.
Cat dog.
Yeah, it says the bowfin.
What a great show.
The bowfin and gars are remnants of an ancient group of fishes that was ancestral to most of today's fishes. Amia calva is the only living species in this family, which is often found in swamps, sloughs, ditches, and oxbow lakes, which we have plenty of those in this area.
Yeah, plenty of sloughs and oxbows in the Illinois River.
They're basically, it's a predator fish if you Google it. I mean, these things got rows of teeth. And
my friend caught one at Emaquan, the first one I'd ever seen, and we had to put it in the live. We didn't know what it was. We had to put it in the live well and go drive to another boat. And said, "Do you know what this is?"
Yeah, growing up as a kid, we fished a lot of these little irrigation ditches around in the kind of the river bottom area that would fill up with that connected to the river somehow, and they were just full of dogfish. So I caught dogfish. Sangonoise is full of dogfish. I don't know if you've ever been down to Sangonoise or
Never fished it, no.
It's full of dogfish.
Really?
Yeah, bunches of them.
Yeah, the state record is 16 pounds from 1984, and the bow fishing state record is 12 pounds in 2012.
Does it say what the length is?
State average is 21.2 inches.
No, the record.
No, it does not say the length. No, just the poundage.
They're like a torpedo, man.
Yeah, similar to a snakehead.
It looks like an eel almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Except the difference between the bowfin and the snakehead is the bowfin's a good fish. The snakehead is a terrible fish for our.
Yeah,
Are those the invasive species like down in Florida and stuff?
We have them up here too.
Really?
I've heard there's been a few people that are finding snakehead. My brother actually lives out in Virginia, and he's caught snakehead out there.
Did you guys hear about that kid that got bit by that muskie?
Yes. Where was that?
I think that was somewhere.
Like in the Ozarks?
No, I thought it was Northern Illinois.
It might have been.
I mean,
Was it like Fox? Was it like Fox River?
it was Fox River. He got bit right in the foot.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
Muskie's got some freaking teeth, man.
Dude.
They said it was a muskier northern. Makes sense, but
Yeah. Boy gets 16 stitches after fish bites him hard on Fox Lake. That is wild, man.
I can't. I mean, growing up swimming in all these rivers and stuff, you never think, I'm gonna get bit by a freaking fish and have to get stitches. You know?
yeah,
Right. That or a snapping trail comes up and
you're done.
toes are gone. But anyway, I am definitely got that muskie bite. I want to get one this fall. Probably wait till maybe after bow season. Wait for that water to get a little bit cooler. Temps get a little cooler, and I want to try to land one in the yak. So and I want to try to get some more bowfin, which I've never caught a bowfin, as everyone just called me out on, but it is definitely on the hit list. I know earlier this summer I kind of made a little hit list, and one of the fishes on there was a sturgeon, and
I don't think fishes is a word. You keep saying that
fishes. Well,
it's just fish.
I was going straight from
goldfishes because they're so delicious.
Grammar police over here.
Yeah, right. Come on, dude. But one of the fish that was on my bucket list was a sturgeon, and we have a buddy that lives kind of in eastern Iowa. He's kind of a sturgeon junkie. Shout out to you, Dylan. And he was kind enough to let me, Ben, come out, and our other buddies, Cody and Matt, and kind of showed us around on some of these local waters. And I mean, fishing for these sturgeon is fishing at its simplest. I mean, you have a simple, I think we're using, what size hook we're using?
Like a 2-aught?
I think it was a 2-aught hook with a lead sinker, barrel swivel, and a tub of night crawlers from Casey's. And you're just basically casting out, letting it, night crawlers sink on the bottom on these sand flats, and these sturgeons come up and just smoke it.
Yeah.
And these are shovel nose sturgeon. I know there's shovel nose, pallid, and lake sturgeon. And shovel nose is what we're targeting. And there's no really restrictions, or they're not a protected species like the pallid and the lake is. Because I know a lot of guys will keep these shovel nose sturgeon and smoke them. And from what I heard, it's pretty tasty. But I caught a sturgeon. Cody and Matt caught a sturgeon. And Ben, well, he caught a little buzz.
We were, it was Cedar River, right, in Iowa?
Yeah, Cedar River in Iowa, which I don't know if it branches off of the Missouri River.
I think it branches off the Wisconsin River.
No,
Does it?
I'm pretty sure it's the Missouri River.
Dylan told us, but I can't remember what it was. Yeah, you looked it up.
Good thing you got the Google.
The Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this Cedar River, it flows pretty good. It's got a lot of channel and bullhead cats in there.
Is it pretty clean, or is it kind of muddy?
When we were there, it was muddy because they had a lot of rain recently, so it was a lot of runoff.
A lot of rain early this spring.
Oh,
man.
dude, yeah.
There's a ton. That river was way up.
Yeah, which I kind of regret that I didn't bowfish anymore, because that usually when it floods, you got really good bow fishing.
Right. I know.
Did you do much bow fishing, Alex?
I did not. Let's see. I think I bow fished maybe a handful of times, and I shot gar. Yeah. Other than that, dude, I did not shoot any grassies, didn't shoot any commons or bugs.
I went once.
I know we have our good buddy Cody again. He got the bow fishing bug bad this year, and he got into a water system that had just absolute giants, and he shot one. I think it was a grassy.
That's right.
And this thing had to been 30, 40 pounds, just an absolute submarine, dude.
I mean, that was a fight,
dude. And he's shooting at the recurve too, off of off of a little John boat.
That's right.
That he named the SS Carp Muncher. And
Carp Muncher.
I think that's what he's doing right now. He's out there just slinging some arrows and some grassies, but dude, he's got the bow fishing bug bad. I know I had it last year, or not last year, probably about 2 years ago.
Yeah. And
I kept a little journal. I shot probably 200, 220 fish.
Yeah.
I've never been bow fishing.
Dude,
really?
It is
just something I'm like, well, whatever. I don't really care.
It's
something else to spend more money on.
That is true.
Well, actually, bow fishing, I mean, you can use your old bow. I mean, the only money you're really putting into it is the reel and the arrows. Other than that, just get a cheap old bow from pawn shop or someone's old bow.
Yeah, I've got his old bow that he used for bow fishing. Alex gave me that one.
Just wear some Crocs, some shorts, and cut off T-shirt, and just have fun, man. You can stack up some fish pretty quick, especially around here, all the backwaters.
It's a little different because you're shooting them, and at least me, I'm not keeping the fish. You're shooting Asian carp or gar.
But we do
grass carp, big head carps.
We do dispose of these fish properly.
Yeah.
I know we give them. A lot of farmers will use them as fertilizer for their gardens or their land, or some people even. I've smoked them beforehand, but a lot of people just throw them in their garden or their ditches.
Used them for coyote bait.
Yeah,
that
bait,
too. But
cut bait.
My point was like you're not harvesting.
Yeah, it's not a really
meat.
good table fare. Really.
No, so it's a hobby that's fun thing to do when it's hot and
when it's too hot to fish.
Because
the prime time to go bow fishing is when they get the high sun and these fish are up on the surface, and it just makes it easy to shoot these fish because you get the high sun, good visibility, these fish on the surface just browsing around.
Well, a lot of it's conservation too. I mean, bow fishing, you're shooting a lot of invasive species.
Yeah, these Asian carp are absolutely destroying the Illinois River, and as soon as they're making their way up north, up into the Great Lakes, and as soon as they do that, it's scary to think about that.
They've made it into the Tennessee River. They're in Kentucky Lake right now.
Yeah, that's scary.
Have you guys seen the most recent form of Asian carp control that they're trying out?
Is it the netting?
No, they're sending like a short range electric shock.
Oh yeah.
There's a video that went viral going around.
So like an electric barrier?
Yeah, it's like pretty much. It's like a 50-foot radius shock that goes out. And just Google it. You'll see a couple of videos.
Is that the video where
they just have like
thousands?
Thousands
of them just jumping around the dude's boat.
Yep, and then they're dead.
Oh wow!
But that doesn't even.
You don't know what else you're killing.
Right.
What they try to do, they try to. I read an article. They try to map where they're schooling, and then they'll target only those areas. But inevitably, you're going to kill some other species of fish. But it's so necessary.
Asian carp are just. It's probably the nastiest fish. They got the slime. They stink.
I wonder what the Illinois River
taste really good.
I have never personally tried it, but I've heard.
My dad's tried it. It's really good. This is a real good white meat.
I know there's a bar in Bath that makes Asian carp burgers, and it's insane.
We had remember a few years ago they had that Asian carp tournament, and they weighed them all in at Bass Pro.
I think they had that at Bass Pro
parking lot.
They had one down there at Bass Pro too.
Yeah.
They got that redneck fishing tournament in Bath.
That's every year.
Yeah, that's every year.
But they actually had to cancel this year because the river water was just too high, and when the water's so high like that, it really makes for a crap tournament because they spread out so much.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I imagine if the Illinois River had like big populations of largemouth.
Dude, back in the day.
The good old days.
They used to have Bassmaster tournaments.
Dude, back in 92, 93, they were launching at the Detweiler Marina.
Exactly, yeah.
Downtown Peoria. I mean,
Hank
the videos.
Parker won it in Havana.
That's wild, dude.
I believe Hank Parker won it in Havana.
Just to see what Asian carp can do to a water system in less than 10 years.
You can go on BASS website and see them launching.
You can get on YouTube and get the whole video of the whole Bassmaster tournament.
It is wild.
I mean, just to look back and look at the old
seeing KVD as a young pup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hank Parker out there throwing that stinking spinnerbait. Hank Parker's like this spinnerbait guru, and that's what he's doing down there, and he's just slaying fish. And I mean, I think it was like 11 pounds a day. It wasn't a monster, but for the Illinois River, that's pretty freaking
crazy,
good, man.
But I know the further north you go, you can find your white bass, you can find your largies, you can find all your catfish, your walleye, your sauger. I mean, it seems like right where we're at in Peoria, it's just junk, 'cause all the silt and I know we have a couple sewage overflows that goes in the river, and kind of right in that downtown area, it's just junk. You don't want to swim in there, you don't want to fish it, but people are in there swimming like, dude, that's nasty.
How many years ago was it that me and you went aerial bow fishing?
Oh, yeah. So me and Ben, this is probably 2016. We don't even use use Ben's bass boat. It's got the carpet. It's all nice, and we launch out of one of the marinas across East Peoria. We have our bows, and we have an old trash can that we're just dumping fish in. So we never really gone aerial bow fishing, so probably like the first 20 shots, we just completely whiffing it, and we're not hitting these things worth a damn. And these things are like 2 or 3 feet right in front of us. We have some landing in the boat and hitting us. It's just pure chaos.
So to break it down, you have a fish
So you're saying,
jumping out of the water.
Yeah. So the vibration from the outboard causes these fish to literally jump out of the water.
So that's their defense mechanism.
Yeah.
You pull your bow back in anticipation of a fish jumping out of the water. You don't know where this fish will jump out of the water.
The way we had it going, one guy was driving the boat and the other guy was on the back by the outboard shooting, because we'd basically be shooting right past the outboard. So I think I was driving and Ben was shooting, and we'd be kind of switching off. And these vibrations, like I was saying, will just cause these fish just to go airborne. I mean, these things, I mean, if they hit you, it can hurt. I know I think it was Chris Brackett's girlfriend at the time. A fish came up, hit her in the jaw, and it broke her jaw, and her jaw got like wired shut for like a couple weeks. But
there's a couple guys that got their necks broken from those things.
They're insane.
Concussions are not uncommon.
But
because there's like there's 2 forms of Asians, like the silver and then there's another one, big head. I think they're both Asian.
Well, the only one that jumps is the silver carp.
Right.
But
we had one jump out, so I think I was running the outboard, but I didn't have my hand on the throttle. Yeah. Asian carp jumps out of the water, hits the throttle forward.
We do like a 180. We almost go in the drain,
and we're near the seawall, and my boat starts head for the seawall. I'm like, whoa!
Disaster averted. So after
all due to a carp
jumping out of the water. Yeah.
So after a while, we kind of get down. We're starting to shoot fish. It's fun because I mean you're shooting fish out of the water with a freaking bow and arrow. I mean how redneck Rambo is that? Yeah. But anyway, we're urban. This is like urban fishing at its finest. I mean, we're literally right downtown. And
is that like that video? What were those guys, the carp slayers or whatever? Where that dude was on skis and a samurai sword.
Yeah. It's along those lines. But we're both
right in downtown.
Right
Peoria,
downtown,
so,
and
I mean, you can see all the landscape of Peoria
at the time. It was Saturday morning, probably about 8:30 to 9:30 o'clock in the morning, and it was June, beautiful day, and we're right by a park where they have like a farmer's market, and there's probably a couple hundred people at this farmer's market, buying fresh produce and cheeses and crafts and all that crap, and here we are, all bloody and slimy, slinging arrows, and people start watching us. We get a crowd of people, and then next thing you know, there's probably about 40 people just watching us. We have an absolute audience, and there's a guy. I remember this guy on the phone, and I don't know if he was calling the police or he was calling his friend. He was like, "There's people down here with bows. They're shooting fish. They're shooting it out of the water. It's crazy. It's chaos. Blah 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 blah." And I mean, it's like people are paying us to shoot fish because fish are jumping. We shoot a fish. We're like, yeah, we got like a little audience. People are clapping and everything, and it was just pretty crazy.
You lost out on that was probably back when like YouTube was in its like fresh stage. You lost out on your million dollar vlog.
We had a solid audience for probably about an hour of.
It was just funny because the group gathered and
we had
we're being watched.
We're being watched, and then our aim was off, so we kept missing. Like we'd shoot. Oh, you hear that? Oh, you missed. Then we connect. Yeah. It was like we were like at a sports event or something like that. But yeah.
Dude, there's nothing better than like whether you're fishing just for fun or you're fishing in a tournament, catching a fish in front of somebody.
Yes.
Dude, people are jacked about it. They're like, "Hey, can I take your picture with you holding the fish?" I'm like, "Yeah, man."
It's just like catching it, even if it's like just like you're fishing against these people and you catch a fish in front of them. You're like, "Yeah,
I
man.
love that." Catch anything? A few, and then you jack one, and
you're like, maybe.
You just see the look on their face.
Yeah.
Conversely, though, when it happens to you, you don't feel very good.
Not as fun.
Yeah, but bow fishing, I mean, I didn't really do it a whole lot. I know probably about 2 years ago again when I was in that bow fishing stage, I'd bowfish gar pretty heavily. And actually, I shot a couple nice short-nosed gar because we have a lot of short-nosed and spotted gar. That's our most common gar. And I shot a small short-nosed gar. I was like, you know what? I want to try to flay this thing out and eat it. So I kind of did a quick YouTube search on how to flay gar, and it's not like a bluegill or a crappie or anything like that where you can just
You almost got to peel them like a banana,
dude.
Don't you?
Is that what it is?
They have like a hard, it's almost like armor, and I had to get freaking tin snips to cut this thing back. I mean, it wasn't even skin, it was like a hard armor around its whole body, so I had to get tin snips. cut off like all the skin, and it basically has 2 long back straps along the spine. And you just get a fillet knife, cut those back straps. I call them back straps. Probably, I mean, they're fillets, obviously, but take those out, cut them in little nuggets.
It's like the Y bone from a pike, essentially.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and it's good. It's good for white meat, dude. It tastes killer. I mean, you never would have thought it was from a gar. You'd think it was a catfish or something like that, and just cut up in little cubes. Throw some andies on there, fry it up, and it's a good, solid white meat. And no one really eats gar. People shoot gar and just ditch them, but dude, I know cleaning them is a pain in the butt, but it's worth it. If you get those tin snips, get a good fillet knife, fry them up, man. You got yourself a good meal right there.
And there is an abundance of gar in the Illinois River.
We saw a bunch of them last week when we were fishing out of Amiquan. I mean, they're everywhere out there.
Yeah.
And I'll fly fish for gar too. Gar it's another underrated species that no one targets.
They fight good too.
They'll attack anything. Dude.
Got a big head shake.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the thing with
they're tricky to catch on like a
their mouths are so hard.
Yeah, it's all bone. So what I do, I'll fly fish for them, and I'll take like a shoelace and cut off the shoelace and bring out like the inner strands, and I'll tie that on like on a hook. So
they get tangled up.
So the line gets tangled up in the teeth.
Yeah,
and
when you first told me that, I was like, no way.
Dude, no one believes me.
You're catching a fish without a hook.
So kind of fast forward till when me, Cody, and all the guys went up to Tipton, Iowa to fish. We stopped at this little bar. And there's some backwaters that we're kind of walking around, and we see some gar swimming around. Cody's like, dude, I got some shoelace fly. I got some gar flies in the truck. I'm gonna go get my rod and try to catch for him. So he ran to his truck, grabbed the flies, came back out, and Ben at the time was still kind of skeptical on the whole shoelace fly.
I wasn't skeptical. I didn't.
You just never experienced it.
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. So
when we were in high school, we used to take buzz baits, and we'd take like a kind of a shoelace material and tie onto the hook, and just because they would chase your buzz bait and blow up on your buzz bait.
They're like piranhas, man. And Cody, so we kind of told Cody where he was at, and Cody kind of wet waded, probably waist deep in the water, and threw this fly like literally right behind it, and this fish did a 180 and smoked it. Yeah. It was like a piranha.
Sweet.
He didn't. I don't think he landed it, but he got a good hook set, good little fight, and the fish got off. And dude, that thing is wild. So yeah, gar are the ultimate predator fish.
Yeah. I've tried to catch them on like a traditional bobber hook.
You can always hook them up for just a little bit, and then they want whatever they're eating so bad they don't let go.
Yeah.
You think you got them hooked, but they're just holding their mouth shut on whatever they got, and then they let it go, and they're gone.
Yeah, I've probably had maybe 50 hook sets on gar and landed probably 7 or 8 last year.
That's why, like down in Texas, when they catch them giant alligator gars, they have to let them take that bait for a good solid 30 seconds, so they swallow it down, so they get into some of that soft tissue, and get them hooked up that way. Because if you don't, they'll just won't get a hook in them.
Absolutely, yeah. They're definitely a underrated and tricky fish to catch, but you can find them anywhere in any backwater system or slough or ditch, and they're going to be there because they come up on the surface and kind of they have like an air bladder, and they'll just suck down air and go back down for 30 seconds, a minute, and come back up, and you can hear almost like a sucking noise of them on the surface, and then just throw that fly or lure or whatever, and you're gonna smoke them.
This is some real river rat stuff right here.
Yeah,
dude. Growing up in the backwaters of the river, man, you learn a lot from either doing it yourself or from some of the old timers, some of the old boys that are drinking their Miller High Life. Like, back in my day,
I mean, minus the water moccasins and the alligators, it's about as close to Louisiana bayou as you can get sometimes.
Yeah, it's swampy. It's
in
nasty.
some parts for sure.
Yeah, because
you're going to get muddy. You're going to get stinky if you're on the river.
Yeah, you get around.
That's why I don't. I bow fish the river. I don't really fish the river.
You get south. You get south of Havana, man. It gets just straight up gnarly down there.
Yeah.
It's that river system, man. I don't know if it's all the silt and runoff.
Yeah.
Just the backwaters, dude.
I think I'm more with Brad. I'm a freshwater bass guy. Sure. Have you fished quite a few tournaments?
Yeah.
Brad is quite the tournament angler.
I fish them, but probably not as serious as you
although
do.
not this year. I don't have much to brag about. It was a pretty crappy year for me, but
I think it was a crappy year for a lot of people just because of, in my opinion, the water was way too high. We had so much rain.
But the rain was just bad. I mean, there was tournaments that we should have done better. You know, I had kind of a little bit of background. I started fishing tournaments probably 10 years ago, and started out with the Steel City Bassmaster Club and kind of the whole trout net story. kind of the origins of that. But started doing that, and then I fished BFLs for a couple years. And
now, for the viewers that don't know what BFL is, what is BFL?
That's the FLW Bass Fishing League. That's kind of like their amateur circuit. They have divisions all over the country. So it's a good thing to get. I mean, even if you don't have a boat, you can be a co-angler and still fish. So it's awesome. You learn a lot. But did that for a while, a couple years, and still a broke college student. Stayed with the club, and then kind of moved back up here. Fished onesie, twosie tournaments for a while, and then this year was like the first year to get back into fishing. 5+ tournaments a season, and it started out okay, and kind of that midsummer drag kind of got in, but I started with a new partner this year. We fished team tournaments, fished Bass 25. Started with a new partner, so there's that learning curve. You got two guys that haven't fished together that often getting together, and it's just something you got to figure out.
Yep. In most tournaments, at least Bass 25 is 5 fish limit.
Usually, most of the lakes around here have got 3 fish limit or a 6 fish limit.
So what is the typical weight for? Well, what's the most common weight for guys to take first around here?
It all depends.
Just every lake is so different.
Depends on the day.
Depends on the time of year.
Yeah. In the springtime, you can see some big bags. In the summertime, you can see some big bags.
Yeah.
I'm not the tournament fisherman. I'm more of the I love wading creeks. I'll throw my backpack on, and I'm the fly fisherman. I don't really do a whole lot of gear fishing. So this whole tournament angling.
He's the purist.
Yeah. I'm the one on the dark side.
Don't make me break out the high school bass fishing stories.
Hey, you know what? That's the old me.
Me and Alex went to high school together. Not to cut you off, Brad. We'll finish your recap here. But me and Alex were on the bass fishing team in high school. Yeah,
I missed that because I'm old.
We had a team
Brad.
in high school.
Yeah, we had the jerseys, the logo, and we would leave school early to go fish.
Yep. So.
That's like a dream, dude.
It was awesome.
I got Saturday school because I skipped school.
Dude,
it was awesome.
For our homecoming parade, they had most people would be on floats and everything. We were hauling a bass boat, and I remember Kyle Jepson. He was tying on Snickers bars to his fishing rod, and just pitching it out to the kids.
That's great. Dude,
I forgot about all that. But those are probably your first tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Alex, we fished Clinton. I think it was a.
That was our senior year.
Yeah, it was a high school. I think it was put on by University of Illinois, and we placed pretty well.
I mean, there's probably about 50, 60 schools, and we got in the top 10, I think.
We did.
Which high school were you in?
Limestone.
Yeah, Limestone's always had a pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, then you got a bunch of outdoorsmen, redneck guys that go to Limestone. I mean, we take fishing seriously.
That high school fishing's legit, man.
Dude, it's huge now.
I remember. I don't want to brag, but I remember emailing the superintendent at Limestone Community High School and saying, hey, I've heard of other schools starting this bass club. I think it would be awesome if Limestone started a bass club. And he put me in contact with a couple people who didn't work at the school that could potentially be coaches or what do they call them? Your driver for
chaperones.
The boat. Yeah, chaperone. And emailed them. They agreed to come to the school, and that's essentially the first team that we had. That's how it started.
I remember our first practice, quote unquote. It was in the gymnasium, and we practiced casting in the gym, throwing out just random stuff. Because half the kids in here, I mean, they never threw a bait caster.
But kind of like you said, it's exploded. High school going into college. I mean, bass fishing is legit.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess this kind of dates me a little bit and shows my age, but growing up and going through high school, we didn't have high school bass fishing. And then by the time we got out of college, that was right at the very beginning of collegiate fishing. Yeah. And now it's just huge.
It's blown up. I mean, it's even televised now on ESPN and everything.
I've always wanted to give back and volunteer as one of those coaches, but again, I don't live back here.
Gives you another excuse to move back.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Take some kids
for sure.
out.
My buddy down in Tennessee, they coached. He's He's works at a high school. He's a teacher, not a teacher, I don't think anymore. But they did the whole, him and.
Although I can't imagine. So that tournament on Clinton, my dad was our chaperone for that one. And he's like, I could not stand for 8 hours. I had to watch you guys fish.
Good at fish.
And you can't. And they said you can't give them any. You can't
tie on their lures.
No, you can't help them.
But you can give them tips. You can be like, this would be a good place, but you can't touch any of their equipment. But
hands off.
But you can tell them, hey, this is a good area. And
that was fun, dude. That was probably my first and last tournament that I fished.
Really? That was the last one?
I don't think I've ever done a tournament after high school, just because I really had no interest in.
I love to compete, man.
Me too.
I'm in it for more myself because, like I was saying, I'm more of a solo fisherman. I love either just wading a creek. I mean, we have a lot of cold water creeks around here with that smallies and white bass and crappies, and I'll take my backpack and a couple of backpack beers and just wade the creek and just.
I like doing the after work tourneys.
There's a lot of prep that goes into it.
Into just tournaments in general? Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, what would guys think if I showed up to fish a tournament throwing strictly fly gear?
They would give you some weird looks.
Yeah. You know what? I'll give them weird looks right back at them.
They'd be like, what is this guy doing?
A lot of mumbles under the breath.
I might have to do that. That might be a social experiment for the next tournament. Just show up all fly gear.
Show up.
Are you filming a documentary or what?
Netflix documentary.
Is this guy doing like a fly fishing challenge for YouTube?
The fly out. You know what? Challenge accepted.
There you go.
I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a tournament with the fly rod. And watch me just absolutely just smoke everybody.
I believe
a lot of pause right there. You guys have no confidence in me.
I just don't know.
That's not it.
I don't
see. There's not a whole lot of fly fishermen here in Central Illinois because people, when they think fly fishing, they think of Colorado, Idaho, Montana for trout. But I mean, anywhere where you can use spinning gear, bait casting gear, you can use fly gear. I mean, fly fishing is so advanced now with all different flies. I mean, you can mimic your bait fish. You got your top water. You got even flies that can have the same type of jig heads as you guys are throwing.
To me, fly fishermen always seemed like the nerds of the fishing.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, I know when you think fly fishing, you think the dude with the glasses and the little floppy hat and the little vest.
He's got his vest on with the flies attached to the hat.
There's a couple different different breeds of fly fishermen. I don't fall into that type of classification.
There's like that super technical fly fisherman that goes every time he catches a fish, he like purges it and looks to see what it's eating, and then
it's eating a non-vertebrate crawfish.
It's got some pupa from a stonefish larvae.
Stonefish larvae. But no, I'm in that kind of stuff too because when I go up to Wisconsin, I'll try to match the hatch with different bugs. I mean, you got your stoneflies and your caddises and your mayflies and all that stuff.
That's
matching the hatch, kind of like that's like the fishing 101. I mean,
right. But also, I tie my own flies too, so I'll tie my flies to match the different life cycle of the mayfly, from the nymph to the actual fly to the caddis to all that kind of stuff. But I'm a fly fisherman. I mean, I'm wearing swim trunks, Crocs, cut off camo t-shirt, backpack, and I got just a crusty old hat and some sunglasses, and I'm just out there just shucking some streamers, getting some smallies and crappie, and jamming out to some Grateful Dead on my phone, just having a good time.
Grateful Dead. He's like the hippie fly fisherman.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of hippie fly fishermen out there, and a lot of nerdy, by the book fly fishermen, which.
Yeah, the thing that amazed me with going up to Wisconsin with you a couple times, Alex, is you actually people get a little political on the fly stream. If you're not fly fishing, you get a little bit of a stink.
Yeah, there's a couple streams up there in Wisconsin where there's a lot of fly snobs.
Well, not just in Wisconsin. It's
anywhere. It's anywhere.
Anywhere there's like a community of fly fishing. There's those fly fishermen snobs, you know.
This is kind of how, like, if I were to show up at a bass tournament with a fly rod, exactly. I get the stink eye. You guys go up to some fly rod country, and you guys have got a little ultralight, and you're just like, "What the hell are you doing here, boy?"
That's cheating.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'll do both. I was up in Wisconsin a couple weekends ago, and I took my fly rod and my spinning gear, and I caught more trout on a spinning gear than on a fly rod, just because, I mean, you're basically power fishing with the spinning gear. You can move a lot more quicker with the fly rod. You got to kind of take your time.
In some places, you don't have room.
No, dude, no. Yeah. I've lost probably hundreds of dollars of flies by getting snagged on trees and branches behind me. I mean, I bought, I think, a $12 lure or fly, and probably the first or second cast, snagged and snapped it off. And dude, I was mad.
And that's just like fishing in general. I mean,
it happens to everyone.
That
5XD I lost at Emerquan.
That's a $10 lure.
Yeah, easy.
Dude, yeah. And the price of like whopper ploppers. I mean, I bought a whopper plopper. It was $18.
I don't think there's any other hobby where you
lose stuff. You don't get overly mad about it because it's almost expected.
Right. You waste money to do it. I mean, you're actually throwing money away.
Same with like shotgun shells. I mean, you're basically shooting $2 shells at a time, $3 shells, $4 shells. My
buddy had a full shotgun, a black cloud. He's like, I just want to shoot. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, there goes $7.
It's like chasing that crippled duck, and you shoot 10 shells. You're like, oh, there was like $10. That's
it happens to all of us, so I'm guilty of it. But I guess that's what being an outdoorsman's all about, is having a good time wasting money on gear that you just bought.
Having a good time wasting money.
I mean, there's 800 numbers for that for gamblers, for gamblers.
There's plenty of ways to waste money.
I guess at least we're
responsible.
It all goes back to conservation too. Yeah. Everybody wants to complain about the hunters and stuff, but look we're the ultimate conservationists.
Look how much millions of dollars we are putting back into the environment, back into fisheries.
Are you guys familiar with the Pittman-Robertson Act?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm bad about this.
Well, let me and Alex educate you on the Pittman-Robertson. Although I'm probably going to butcher. Alex is googling it right now to fact check me, but it's essentially it's an excise tax on top of
that comes with all sporting goods. So
I kind of knew
whether it be arrows, lures, shotgun shells, your bow, a certain percentage of that money goes back into conservation efforts, and that's been in. I think that was enacted or was passed back in 1937, and it's a federal aid and wildlife restoration. So,
and the federal government cannot touch 1 cent.
No, that's good because
it all goes back to conservation.
So, regardless if you're buying the crankbait or some camo socks,
I don't know if fishing. I don't know if
I think it's
fishing equipment.
Let's see if I can.
It's
find
just
anything.
Hunting, firearms.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I'm sure there's a list of things.
Hunter education programs and operation of archery and shooting ranges also comes from that as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're putting millions of dollars a year and
then on top
gear.
of, everybody. Everybody goes to DU banquets and
plus our duck stamps,
whitetails unlimited and stuff like that, and spend a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah. And, that's why they say all these people are out here wanting to. Keep hunters from hunting.
Yeah. Last year alone, $797 million was generated just from the hunting products.
Just from Pittman-Robertson?
Yeah. $872 million was generated from hunting licenses. So if an anti-hunter comes up to you and basically is mad and yelling at you, like, why? How could you do this to animals? Like, well, how much money have you put back in conservation efforts?
Yeah, we are the conservationists.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand that because without us, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Raise, tax something else?
Yeah,
I feel like that
since 1939, state fish and wildlife agencies have received over $62 billion from sportsmen and women.
Like I hear that all the time. Hunters are the best form of conservation, and like you hear it all the time. People wear it out, but it's so true.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't deny it. It's so true. But
yeah, Aldo Leopold once said a pretty cool quote. I can't really word it from memory, but let's see if I can kind of bring it up real quick.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things that another one of those things people don't quite realize. Mm-hmm. They know there's money from somewhere. They just don't know where it's coming from.
How many conservation organizations are you part of? Probably Ducks Unlimited, right?
Ducks Unlimited for sure.
BASS?
And no FLW. You got to have FLW membership to fish the tournaments.
Right.
But FLW and Ducks Unlimited are basically it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a Ducks Unlimited member. I'm a BASS member.
I really should be. I should be a member of the Nature Conservancy because they do
we utilize that land yearly.
Yeah, that's Emiquon. We fish there.
It's hard because I don't think like the Nature Conservancy is a privately owned conservation organization,
right?
So they don't receive funds from like Pittman-Robertson or
like
federal stamps,
private donors.
Yes,
they do. They do a ton of good work.
They do it. Yeah, I did a presentation in college about the Nature Conservancy.
Yeah, and even, I mean, they hire their own biologists to do all this research and stuff. And I mean, the stuff that they do, it's pretty awesome.
Yep.
I know coming up, speaking of conservation efforts, coming up on August 23rd and 24th, it is the Illinois Deer and Beer Fest in Bloomington. It's basically a big outdoor convention, a lot of vendors and seminars and stuff. But the night before that on a Friday, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, this conservation group that kind of helps with public lands and public waters and funding all that, they are doing like a pint night. And basically, if you join BHA, it's $25 a year, kind of helps put money back into our public lands. They're having a pint night. It's all for conservation efforts. And it's at Distill Brewery from 7 to 10 p.m. So,
where at?
Distill Brewery in Bloomington, Illinois.
Bloomington.
I don't know the exact address, but I'm sure if you Google either BHA Pint Night Distill Brewery, you can find it, even if you Facebook it. But
I think Alex and myself.
Yep, we'll be going there. It's free to join, or it's free to go. There's no cost at the door, cover charge. But I mean, you also got to buy your own beer. But I think proceeds from the beer goes to the BHA. So it's a great night to kind of network with other like-minded hunters and have a couple beers and swap some stories.
I'm looking forward to it. I've been on. I will call myself out. I'm not a member of BHA. I've been on their website about 1 million times and ready to sign up and become a member, but I haven't yet. So I'll have to make sure I sign up for that before we go.
Yep, you gotta check it out. Don't want to show up to the event. Oh, you see a member? Nah, just here for the beer.
Yeah, just here for the beer. I mean, I guess that's okay too.
It is okay.
Yeah.
All right, boys.
It's just crazy, man. The conservation that goes on. There's a lot of it. People don't realize it.
From Ducks Unlimited to Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, from Trout Unlimited to BASS.
I'm not much of a debater, so I can't spit facts like some people can, but
I know a lot of people give DU a hard time because they claim that they're not spending the money,
it's going into their pocket.
But I mean, you look at some of the stuff the Imaquan project, they help with the Imaquan project.
I know they did a project down in Spring Lake.
I've always wanted to volunteer for one of those DU projects.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do a lot of projects, and I just don't think people actually visually see it. You read the DU magazine. There's always some type of showcase, something that they're doing in there.
You volunteered for a couple of Pheasants Forever projects, right?
Yep, I went out to some land that's owned by Pheasants Forever, and kind of helped with. I think I cleaned out some of the duck boxes, helped do some controlled burning. No, not controlled burning. I helped clean out a evasive plant called the purple. Man, what is it called? Purple
people eater.
Purple people eater.
Purple plant.
I forgot what it was called, but it's like an invasive plant. I spent probably 4 hours just picking up all this plant, taking it from the root, and throwing it back in my truck. And dude, I mean, those guys are super appreciative because I know that the volunteer numbers is very low. So I mean, if you got a couple hours to spare, whenever there's a work party, you always got to pitch in.
Yeah. I've always wanted
the Nature Conservancy, I know they do a big cleanup at the river too.
No kidding.
I think it's at the river, but they do a cleanup and they're always looking for volunteers. It's something I don't get involved with as much as I probably should.
And you don't even have to do a scheduled volunteer cleanup party. I mean, if you see trash along the riverbank, just pick it up, throw it in your backpack, take a Kroger sack with you, and just fill up with trash. Because you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at the amount of crap that I come across just walking the waters, walking the creeks. And
I always try to pick it up too.
I mean, people don't even care. They just leave their nightcrawler boxes and their beer cans and just trash. Dude, seriously? I mean, we're here to catch fish and enjoy it. You don't want to trash this.
# leave no trace.
You betcha.
Clean it. Take out more than what you bring in. That's,
leave nothing but a footprint.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome though. But summertime fishing, man, it's tough.
Dog days of summer.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what's your guys' go-to late summer lure?
Late summer lure?
Late summer lure. I mean, we're in the dog days.
Sweet beaver, bud. Sweet beavers.
Anything on a Texas rig, but
T-rigs.
I love throwing 10-inch worm in the summer, and then I throw a beaver from start to
So when you
guys, beaver's tied on all the time.
All the time.
Reaction Innovations makes that. You can find those at Prices Outdoors. I think Gander. Does Gander?
I think Gander has them.
Gander Outdoors has them, but Bass Pro Cabela's does not carry them. So.
Shields has them.
Shields, and I mean they're legit. They got this couple. They have Senko's out now. They have swim baits. Of course, the beaver baits.
They've got swim baits. They've got all sorts.
They got all the beaver baits, like the spicy, the kinky, and the sweet beaver.
Spicy beavers are their newest addition. Those are just absolute craze. So definitely check those out. But when you guys throw Texas rigs, you guys throwing them weightless, weighted? I mean, what's your weighted?
I usually use like a 4 or 5 aught hook with anywhere from 1/4 to 1/2 ounce tungsten. Tungsten's big.
Yeah, I throw a 4 aught, usually 4 aught hook with a 1/4 or 3/8 bullet weight.
Gets it done.
Throw a beat, it gets it done.
Gets it done.
Yeah,
and
just keep it simple.
20-pound fluorocarbon for me. I don't know.
That's what I use.
You know,
absolutely.
Because I don't like braiding unless I'm fish top water.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Yeah,
I think they ruin your reels over time too.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of you're putting rope on something. You know, it's got to be hard on your bearings.
Right.
Seems like every time you catch a fish too, your braid just digs into itself. And you can't ever get it right. So that's why I usually never have it on.
All right. So
I'm a fluorocarbon guy.
Heck yeah.
Me too.
All right. Well, kind of wrapping it up right now. Do you guys have any final thoughts of past summer, future hunting? I mean, what's your guys' final thoughts?
I'm pretty jacked about upcoming that September.
Yeah,
September right around a quarter, down like 2 weeks now.
We've got some exciting things coming up in the waterfowl world, in the deer world.
Yeah, me and Ben have
in the football world. Go Steelers!
Go Pat, go!
I don't watch football, so I'm
a cheesehead.
My Cubs are in first place.
I'm a Cub fan.
Well, anyway, Dove's hunting. But me and Ben have a permit for Mackinac on opening day, so we're pretty stoked about that.
Yep.
And the following day will be Labor Day, so I'm pretty sure you'll see us chasing honkers and some more doves in the evening.
I just want to say, second try on the podcast. I think this.
Thank you for those that tuned in for our first podcast and listening to this one. Thank you for taking time of your day and giving us a listen.
Make sure you subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yeah, for sure.
And I want to end this podcast with, I know I told you it was an Aldo Leopold quote, but it is actually a quote from Nash Buckingham, and we're kind of highlighting the conservation aspect. And he once said, "A duck call in the hands of the unskilled is one of conservation's greatest assets."
That's definitely true.
I dig it.
And we all have been there. We all have been squealing on a duck call, and why didn't they cup up? Why didn't they come in? Well, listen to your call, but practice, and we'll all be able to coax some ducks in.
All right, guys. It was a good time. Let's look forward to the next one. Episode number 3 would be next. So we'll see you guys next time, and